switch this. Move my video around. Oh, I need one quick thing. We will be starting in approximately 1 minute.
Okay, let's go.
All right, we are live. Well, it was back-to-back losses for the Vancouver Canucks, and they are one loss away from the end of the season. Is it doom, or is there some resiliency left? Is it over? We'll dig into that and much more on the Hockey Podcast, as we are both live on Facebook and YouTube. You can also follow us on Twitter at podcast_hockey. Of course, and like us on Facebook. Subscribe on our new YouTube channel as well. That would be great. Hit the subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube. And if you have any questions, we'll get to them as well. And subscribe on iTunes, Google, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. And we say good morning to Sean.
Good morning, Kevin.
You sound, what's the word I'm looking for?
Tired.
That wasn't the word. It was just like it
frustrated,
resigned a little bit. Yes. And then from the Sota Pod, Isha's with us. Hello.
How's it going, boys?
Yeah, I'm doing okay. It's tough series. Down 3-1. I think that when we do our debrief, there'll be some different comments. But I guess basically, let's start with, and maybe we'll start with Sean, who had the more lower feeling of upness today. Why are the Canucks behind in this series, in your opinion?
Vegas has been able to take advantage of any and all opportunities that the Canucks give them. It doesn't like they are controlling the play for the most part as well, but it seems like any time the Canucks get some sort of momentum, the play goes the other way and Vegas scores, and that kills it, and then the Canucks are chasing. I really liked the Canucks effort last night. I felt that they showed a lot of resilience, a lot of willingness to not give up. And that's something that we want to see from them. It's just Vegas is just too deep. It is a very deep team, and their depth is really showing through in this series. And it's just they're big and physical, and the Canucks are younger. They haven't seen this type of game in and game out in. Before this, and they're going to have to learn. And unfortunately, if they want to continue on, they're going to have to learn in like a day how to fix this.
Isha?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with pretty much everything Sean said there. I think Vegas is just so deep, and regardless of whether the Canucks can rise to the occasion, they need to score goals. And that's what didn't bring me down last night as much as I think a lot of people on Canucks Twitter and just the Canucks fans in general, was that, they didn't play necessarily a bad game throughout the entire game yesterday. In my opinion, they actually played a pretty good game. They actually got some scoring, and that's what's obviously going to elevate them and match and match blow for blow in this series, and that's kind of what's going on here. But it all comes down to depth scoring. You look at the likes of Alex Tuch, who he's in the bottom 6 for the Vegas Golden Knights. He already has 9 points in this series. You look at the bottom 6 of the Vancouver Canucks, they got a big fat 0. Now, I don't want to take anything away from the Mots, who have been grinding, who've been, in my opinion, one of the more noticeable players in this series. But at the end of the day, when you're matching play against the Vegas Golden Knights, who can score at every line, and furthermore, whose defense can score way more than the Vancouver Canucks as well. I'm pretty sure the entire defense of the Vegas Golden Knights has chimed in, even with a point or two, where you look at the Vancouver Canucks, and it's only in this series, if I'm not mistaken, Edler and Hughes, who are really the ones driving the offense from the back end. So it's just a depth thing when it comes down to it. I mean, you can say it's experience based as well, and I mean, I have time for that argument. Obviously, the Canucks core are much younger, but their experienced players aren't really stepping up to the task either. And I think it's just it just comes down to depth. And, we'll get into Markstrom, I'm sure, later in this conversation. But we all kind of said he'd have to be extraordinary for them to win in this series. Last night, he was ordinary. He was good, not great, and he'd probably be the first one to admit it.
To me, I look at the last 2 games, and if Miller hits that, if Miller just shot is just a little bit to the right, and it's a different game. If Virtanen early in the third period hits the net, and Gaudette hit, Fleury doesn't make a couple of 10-bell saves, it's also a different game.
There was a post last night too, the crossbar. Was
yeah.
Was it
Gaudette? That was Pedersen, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Gaudette had that chance too late on the late power play where they finally got a setup right in front of the net, like from bumper to him, and he, I think he shot a little high, and it was just like, because I thought, and I was just listening to 1040 before, TSN 1040 before jumping on with you guys, and they were critiquing and being a little critical of Gaudette. To be honest, guys, I think Adam Gaudette has been outstanding in this series. Yeah, there's no points to his name yet, and that sucks, and that's something he has to improve on, especially when you kind of whiff on those chances there. But his motor has been going light. Tyler Mott, his forecheck has been good. He's playing physical. The guy can skate way better than I thought he could joining this team. He's looked way better than a Jake Virtanen, who's been awarded first line minutes, which I thought was just ridiculous yesterday.
Yeah, I have really liked Adam Gaudette's game. The third line has been the one that had the third line been able to step up and start creating some offense, and even if it's like some sustained pressure, then this series would be different. I haven't minded the fourth line.
And speaking of sustained pressure, they did a good job, just doing that again, not setting anything up offensively, but keeping the puck in the offensive zone, wearing down the offense of the defense of the Golden Knights, and then being able to get a change with ease. The only thing that sucks, Sean, after that is the Canucks couldn't do squat after they got set up, upon making that change.
Yeah, but that's the issue right now is the third line, and that's one of the is the highlight of that line right now.
Yeah,
you've got Brandon Sutter, who's as good as he's looked at times in these playoffs is not. It's still more of a if you're going to have Brandon Sutter, you need to have another really good offensive player on that third line. And Antoine Roussel is basically of the same mold. They basically have one good offensive player on their third line, and I think that's why they tried to shake things up and move Virtanen up a bit and bring Brock Besser down. And at times it worked. It didn't click. You didn't get the production. It didn't get the results. But I think that's the big, in terms, if you're looking at depth issues up front, that's the key. That's the key one is the lack of someone for Gaudette to play with, and to be a bit of someone who can help drive offense with that third line, because the third line of Vegas has been fantastic. Alex Tuch is an absolute monster, and
don't remind Minnesota Wild fans.
And it's just I think that's the biggest difference between these two teams is the third line on Vegas can legitimately be a scoring option. Nick Waugh is a underrated player. I think. Like in
Yeah,
terms of,
he is. He is.
He's an absolute pest. He's always in the faces of the Canucks, and he's able to have some slick on the cycle playmaking. So I think that's the biggest issue right now is the Canucks third line can't match up against the Vegas third line.
You know, one other thing is that the Canucks thought they had like the speed advantage going into this playoffs, and they showed that against the Blues. But holy crap, are Vegas making them look slow, making the Canucks look old here. I mean, I'm talking about the Chandler Stevenson. Shout out the Saskatchewan boy, former Washington Capital. He's been outstanding in this series. Man, does he buzz. Nate Schmidt, Minnesota native. He's he's such a good skater and actually has a pretty nice bomb of a shot at the blue line as well. And just up and down the list, Jonathan Marchessault is a speedy player. Markstrom's not necessarily the north-south quick player, but laterally, that guy's just so quick with his decisions. And actually, he scares the crap out of me. Whenever he's in the offensive zone on that wing, it's like, what is Mark Stone going to do? Like, because wherever he is, he's dangerous with or without the puck. I mean, I could go up and down the lineup with how fast this team is. And I think that's really showing because once the Canucks try to enter the Vegas zone and they turn the puck over, instantly Vegas is applying pressure and it's killing these guys.
Yeah.
For me, Vegas isn't necessarily a fast skating team. They're a fast playing team.
Transition wise, absolutely.
They move the puck so smartly and so quickly that you blink and they're already down the ice. They let the puck do the work more than their legs, and that's
a good point. Yeah.
That's a sign of a very smart team, and it's just down like up and down the lineup. There's not one player who I think has underperformed for Vegas in this series, and that's big for them. As you said, Chandler Stevenson as your fourth line center has been an absolute just steal for Kelly McCrimmon and the Vegas Golden Knights, getting him for I think a fifth round pick from Washington.
Well, and you want to hear something else about him? Is he put a career high in points with the Vegas Golden Knights in the least amount of games he's ever played in the National Hockey League in an entire season. Oh, I guess other than the Washington Capitals he only played for one team, 41 points in 22 games, whereas when he was with the Capitals for the 24 games earlier this season, he only got 4 points. So obviously, a little bit more talent around him in the bottom six, and it's showing when he's around more talented players, and he's given a little bit more freedom to not only just forecheck and play hard defense, but actually, take the puck to the net, utilize the wingers around you and the high-flying defense. This guy's a smart hockey player and can help drive offense. So that's like what we were saying right at the beginning of this hit, right? It's like if you have depth players who maybe, like you look at Chandler Stevenson in Washington, career high 18 points when he was with the Washington Capitals. Now he's with the Vegas Golden Knights and he has that room just to, show off a little bit more of his talent, be a little bit more confident and utilize the tools around him. Yeah, you said it. Kelly McCrimmon, either really was smart in his scouting here or got a steal in this player who's been able to perform for the Golden Knights.
Yeah, to me, I mean, it's the speed of the way that, and just how confident they are with or without, like they don't seem frazzled in any way, shape, or form. It's 3-2. Okay, it's no big deal. We'll head into the third period. We'll get that. We'll cycle down low, and Nate Schmidt can bomb it, and we'll score. We're down 2-0. Shea Theodore is going to jump into the play and create more opportunities. Nick Cousins will win a race for the puck. They don't deviate. They don't deviate where I feel like the Canucks have deviated at times in different parts of this game, I want to be careful how I say this because you can read too much when you're watching on TV, but my observation is it seems like there's a body language of a frustration coming from the Canucks. I particularly think of Quinn Hughes a little bit in this series where it seems like the Golden Knights are don't seem frustrated even when things are not going their way. They got that save from Fleury as an example. Not the Pettersson shot. So I can't remember who it was, but Fleury made one of his patented glove saves when he needed. Like it just feels like the Golden Knights overall are just a more confident team.
Yeah, and it's just clicking, right? Like, I remember yesterday when I heard Fleury was in, I'm like, okay, we're going to get a few goals in. And we did, respectfully. But I was like, he's not going to just shut the door like Leonard. Fleury actually, in my opinion, played better than Leonard played in any game for the Vegas Golden Knights, just because some of the offense and, offensive opportunities for the Vancouver Canucks and chances were more elite chances than Leonard faced in any of the first few games, in my opinion. So I kind of just chuckled at that. I was like, all right, well, where I thought was an edge, for the Vancouver Canucks actually worked in the Golden Knights' favor, where the flower actually came to play. But again, all credit to Canucks, who played a good game overall and got some scoring. And it was just, there's a couple blunders, right? There's that one shot by Nate Schmidt from the point that obviously Markstrom wanted to get back. There was that one shot. I think there was one other goal right off the top of my head. I can't think of it, that he wanted back also in that game. But overall, like, just with those little things, if we didn't hit the crossbar, if Pettersson was able to capitalize on one of those opportunities, if Gaudette didn't miss the net, if Markstrom had one of those goals back, it would be a completely different game. But that's hockey. There's the hindsight's 2020.
Okay, let's get into Markstrom, because I'm having trouble. I personally am having trouble with the criticism of him in general. This is a guy. The Canucks are not here. The Canucks are not playing in August without him. And yeah, he should have. Okay, the Nate Schmidt goal, that was a bomb, but I can see why he said he could have had it. Wasn't his best third period, but at the same time, I feel like he's taking a load of. Too much load of the criticism here overall, when he's probably, other than Pettersson, it's either been Pettersson or Markstrom for me, have been the two best players in August in bubble hockey for the Canucks.
You got to throw Horvat in there. I mean, he's leading in goals.
Fair, yeah, okay, yeah. I don't think Horvat has been to be fair, I don't think Horvat has been as consistent as Pettersson and Markstrom.
Well, I don't know.
Honestly, I see your point.
I would throw him in the mix personally, just because even when he's not scoring, and he has leading the team in scoring, I think his line is pretty damn good, especially last night too. Like, I liked, though I was critical of Virtanen getting those minutes, I liked him, Besser and Virtanen most of the night working together. And then one player, again, it doesn't reflect in offense, kind of the opposite side of Bo, but Tyler Mott has been a godsend in this series as well.
Next year, there has to be, Gaudette and Mott need to be playing together more, for sure.
Ooh, I like that. And some bigger player who can score, right?
Yeah.
Just somebody. I don't know. Well, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Back to Markstrom. Agreed 100%, Kevin. Like, there would be no playoff bubble. There would be no beating the Minnesota Wild if it wasn't for Jacob Markstrom, in my opinion. And I even said it earlier in this hit. He didn't have a bad game. He played a good game. He didn't play extraordinary. The way the Vancouver Canucks are going to beat the Vegas Golden Knights is if this guy plays out of his mind, brick wall every night. And there have been times in this series that he has, and given the Canucks a chance to win. Last night wasn't that. Last night, the defense had to step up a little bit more. The offense really had to push the pace. I mean, guys, in that third period, when they got a gift of a penalty late in the game, when they had a 5-on-3, is it just me, or did the Canucks not look like they wanted it? Like, they didn't look like they had that killer instinct. They didn't look like they just were going balls to the wall. And if they made mistakes going balls to the wall and putting in all that effort, that drive, I'd be fine with it. What killed me last night was their play looked as lackadaisical, as deflating as I was sitting here as a fan. And I was just thinking, like, guys, do something to get me as a fan going. Just, show me that extra 10% of, like, moving your feet. Because, man, there was a lot of stationary players last night. I don't know. That's what really bothered me. I think Markstrom has been more than okay. I think he's really proven himself as my friend says, perhaps even one of the top 5 goaltenders in the league this year. Definitely the top goaltender in the playoffs.
Yeah, for me, Isha said it right. In terms of where the Canucks are and what they needed to happen to beat the Vegas Golden Knights, they need Markstrom to play above average to excellent. And last night he was average. He made some absolute 10 bell saves, but he also let in, I would say, 2. I think there's 2 goals that he wants back. Some people would argue 3,
I think 2's fair. Then it's still a tie game, and at least we could have maybe seen some overtime hockey.
Yeah, I think it was the first goal and then the Nate Schmidt goal. I think are the two that he walks back.
And as a fan, guys, if it went to overtime, then at least you're going to get ramped up, and the players subsequently get that extra little bit of rest, and they'll probably come in with a little pep in their step too. Again, I'm just going to hammer the nail on the head when I say that last night, the last 10 minutes of that game, it was so deflating to see that it almost looked like the guys were giving up, and that was just killing me, especially with the power play opportunity.
Yeah,
one thing I did notice, and I think that played a part into that, is that it felt like they were squeezing their sticks too much. In the first period, they came out and how many times did they try and make a pass and it just either it rolled off their stick?
No, good point. Throughout the game,
so I think there's a little bit of that coming into play here. But going back to
maybe even too much passing too, eh? There've been times where I'm just like, Hughes, just take it in the zone. Why are you dropping it back, or why are you sending it to the wings? Just forecheck, just get it in.
But getting back to Markstrom, if you're gonna critique him and criticize him and say that it's his fault that they lost last night, I think that's flat out wrong. I think that the Canucks needed the defense needed to step up and find a way to take away some of these chances, more as opposed to just relying on Markstrom too much. And this is one of the big questions that's going to go into what this off season is. How do they improve this defense? As much as we like most of the players on that blue line, and there's at least 3 of them that aren't moving at all, no matter what, for various reasons. How are they in a flat cap? How are they improving that? So I think that's, for me, I think it was just a collective effort of not playing well enough and letting Vegas dictate the play and unfortunately just not getting the bounces, because there's the one goal that just bounced off of Pacioretty's skate and in.
Yeah, the 5th goal. Yeah.
Don't remind me. That was awful. That was that goal in the Dallas series. I think it was the last series, or no, it was that one game where they came back against the Colorado Avalanche. I think game 2. But anyways, that one goal that went off Radulov's shoulder, and then he proceeded to score as if he won a game 7. Overtime clincher or winner. I know that's hockey, and if it happens to your team, you're pumped. But man. Yeah. One other thing, though, I want to bring up that when it happens to your own team, you're pumped, but when it's clearly on the other side, you're pissed off. There were some officiating calls last night that went in Canucks' favor, which I was very, very much laughing at and happy about as well.
Yeah, the high stick for sure. Jonathan,
the high stick is the big one. I swear I thought that there was a way to review those for friendly fire. Is that coming in next year or what?
I don't know. I've heard people talk about it, but I haven't heard the league talk about it.
They reviewed
that. I think that needs to happen, because that could have been a game-changing call, and unfortunately it wasn't for the Canucks. But it's just. But yeah, they got that, but there was just they put the whistles away for most of the game, and it was old style beat 'em up hockey at points, whereas you could cross check and hit from behind and hook and hold and not get called. So I know that it was again, as much as I've ranted about the refs for the most part a lot these playoffs. It wasn't the issue last night as much as you want to find a scapegoat. It's just Vegas was just the better team.
Yeah, I think that's what it comes down to overall.
Tyler Myers was in the lineup last night. It's very clear he's not 100%. But what did we think? And I'm assuming you were playing Tyler Myers on Tuesday. Is Jordy Ben get back in, or is this the same 6?
It's the same six as long as Tyler Myers is still healthy. Like Travis Green rode him like a freaking horse. In 22 minutes. I didn't realize he played him that much.
Yeah, and to jump off that, Sean, the first two periods, he actually looked pretty good, especially even just being that deterrent factor there on the ice. His skating actually looked pretty good. And then the third period, you could see starting to get gassed. You could kind of, like what Kevin said, see that, okay, there's still rust or he's still a little bit banged up there. And that's when the turnovers started to happen. I think it was like there were 3 really bad turnovers. I think 2 even on the same shift within that period. But in the first 2 periods, I was like, damn, like Tyler Myers is actually helping out the Canucks here. He's actually, if it's just presence-wise and helping out skating-wise, because it always blows my mind how good this guy can skate for his size. I thought the first 2 periods was very positive. I thought the third was horrible for Tyler Myers. So night and day game for him, but overall a pretty decent return. But you can't blame him, like what Sean brought up. You're riding him over 20 minutes in his return coming off injury. That's a little sketchy in my mind.
Yeah, I think that more. I know a lot of people were pointing that out in the third, but I think it was more the ice time more than anything else. I think he was just gassed.
And you're going to make those silly mistakes. Yeah, 100%.
He also had a couple like nearly 2-minute shifts in the second period, just getting stuck in their own zone. And they were like, "Oh, Tyler Myers was hurt," and I'm just looking at him going, "No, he's just gassed.
Yeah.
He's just been out there working his butt off and trying to keep the puck out, and he just and really playing a physical game. Like he made Alex Tuch like ordinary last night. He 100%. He didn't look Alex Tuch that much last night. So,
well, I think honestly, Toffoli's probably still a little bit more banged up as it applies to the effects of his play than a Myers is, right? Because he's not the fastest skater anyways, and it's really showing right now that, you know, when his injury is a lower body injury, as we all know what he's dealing with there in the ankle, that's obviously going to slow him down. And Travis Green was talking about riding players, was riding the hell out of his first line last night too, especially late in Pearson, Toffoli, and Pettersson. So I think that is also something that needs to be highlighted, that we have a Toffoli here who, yeah, he came back and he scored 3 points in his first night back with the Vancouver Canucks in their win against the Vegas Golden Knights. But this guy's definitely not like in season shape, 100% ready to go. And if you're going to be riding him that much on an injury that he's nursing in regards to skating when you're alongside Pettersson, I mean, that's just something I think we have to keep in mind too, that, you know, Toffoli's not at 100%, though he does look good, and we're happy to have him in the lineup now, and he gives a boost to the offense. Yeah, it's something you gotta keep in mind there.
Back just quickly to the defense. Ice time, Hughes was 24 minutes, Edler 21 minutes, Myers 22 minutes, Vandenberg 15:29, Tanev 15:45, Stetcher 13:51. So they really were riding Edler, Hughes, and Myers a lot last night on defense, and not as much Stetcher, Vandenberg, Tanev, which is. That's interesting in and of itself, and I wonder if if Tanev is hurt a little bit too, but not that Chris Tanev is always yes. There's a joke about Chris Tanev being always hurt, but he just does so much that he hasn't been. He looks a little hurt to me. I'm going to guess it. I wouldn't be surprised if there's an injury there. Isha, we talked about this yesterday. Maybe I'll ask you, has Roussel been effective in this series? And B, were you surprised to see him in the lineup last night?
No, he hasn't done anything in this series. If anything, he's kind of, I don't want to say directly hurt the Canucks, but definitely has kind of been a distraction in the sense that, like, on ice, I don't want to say that he's been the reason that momentum has broken or at any point in the games when his antics have kind of come through. But whatever he's doing isn't working. And I give the guy credit. He's trying to be the pest. But when you're like the only pest on a team and you have no one really to back you up, it kind of, I don't know, it just seems kind of awkward as a Canucks fan watching this, being like, we only have one pest. We don't really have that many tough guys. And Roussel's the only one talking. No one's really like backing him up. I mean, we see Virtanen every now and then. You can back him up, but Big Tuna ain't gonna do anything. So in that sense, like, I applaud that effort, but I don't think it's working. And subsequently, he's not doing anything on the ice, offensively, defensively, to be helping this team. His minutes were vastly diminished in the last few games. And I don't know if I was surprised to see him, because it's either him or McEwen who's going to play kind of that rougher role. Obviously, Roussel's more of the rat. McEwen's more of just a physical player. I think in the next game you take Roussel out and you put Zach McEwen in. That's my thought. They need scoring, so why would you put Louis Eriksson in? If you need help defensively, sure, put him in. I don't think you take Gaudette out. His motor's going. He has to be rewarded hopefully in this last game with at least a goal or a couple points. I think Roussel brings value to a team. I think he's brought value to the Vancouver Canucks since them signing him. Maybe not this season, but this season was a little bit of a whirlwind for him with his injury and whatnot. We've seen him be able to put up offense with the Vancouver Canucks, and we've seen him bring that edge that this team needs something, right? Because they have nothing, that's scary, for lack of a better term, other than, Tyler Myers being kind of a deterrent and a presence on the back end. But he's not an overly aggressive player. When he does, he takes too many cross checks, as we see. So long or the short of it, Roussel hasn't done squat in this series to help the Vancouver Canucks, and I'd like to see McEwen in his place for the last game. You have nothing to lose. You're playing with house money at this point.
Yeah, and that's what I said. That's what I said yesterday, that I wanted to see McEwen in for Roussel last night, and I just feel that McEwen's got the size, he's got the speed, he's got the willingness to play a physical game, he's got the willingness to really mix it up if need be. And he's got a nose for the net as well, and I really think that he can bring everything that Roussel can bring without being the distraction that Roussel's been in this series. Plus, I do think that he's going to be a full-time bottom six player for the Canucks starting next season.
Well, then you switch Mott out for Roussel's spot on that third line. McEwen takes the spot on the fourth line, and you got Mott, Gaudette, and Sutter on the third. That's okay. I like that, because at least Gaudette can get in deep. When Sutter catches up, as soon as he gets there, he can work along the boards. Then you have Gaudette hovering around the slot area. So I think that third line at least brings something extra than what was going on right now. And then the fourth line, McEwen's not going to be worse than a Mott, especially on the fourth line there. They may not go as quickly in their transition from neutral zone to offensive zone, and Mott obviously won't get in on the forecheck on that fourth line. But regardless, it's not going to hamper that line, in my opinion, making that trade.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of things that McEwen can do that probably is needed, and I agree with Sean. I would have played it. I was actually surprised to see Roussel in, but I think that Green was thinking more about the experience, and probably than that Roussel's experience would have helped. But he played 6 minutes Saturday. He played 9 minutes yesterday. I can see as Zach McEwen being a little bit more effective than him at this particular point in time, but I guess we'll have to see in Game 5. The last thing big thing I wanted to get into is, it feels a bit, are we resigned to saying that this series is over Tuesday or tomorrow? Are we like, this is sort of what I'm getting from the fan base and from Twitter and sort of the media comments that I'm hearing, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. The last game is Tuesday. This was a really fun run, but the Canucks are out of gas, and if we get past Tuesday, great, but it's over. That's kind of the feeling I'm getting? Am I missing something? Do you see it the same way, or are you seeing something different?
That's a defeatist Canucks fan attitude. We always seem to go right to the this sucks and we're down and worst sort of possibility. I find it's tough to say anything else at this point, because Vegas has been able to get all the bounces, be opportunistic while still controlling most of the play. So it's tough not to feel that way. But this team is young. This team has shown resilience, and if they can force a Game 6, that would be very, very interesting to see what happens. I think I was thinking about it though. I think how many teams in the bubble have we seen show up and stave off elimination? I think one or two.
Yeah, and it was early. I think it was in qualifying.
I think it was Montreal did it once.
Yep.
They forced a game 6, and then it was the Toronto and Columbus.
Toronto came
series.
back. Yeah.
I think that's it. And so I think it's because it's a bubble and everything. Once you get down and you're facing elimination, it really challenges your mental fortitude, and you're just being able to focus on saying like, look, we're not giving up, as opposed to just kind of looking ahead going, okay, we put up a good run and it's time to and I can go home and be with my family and get out of this bubble.
The veterans didn't sound that way though post game, which is good to hear. Now let's hope the young guys. I'm talking to you, Big Tuna Jake Vertanen. Hopefully that they can, because he doesn't even have a family. I don't mean like a wife and kids. That is, it sounds as if they're ready to come play. So that at least is comforting.
Yeah, and that's if you look at the two teams that did it, it was younger teams that were able to do it. So I think that might help be a good omen for the Canucks. But yeah, it's a long road ahead. They need to basically play 3 perfect games here to have a chance, and they need to play 1 perfect game to have a chance to play 2 more. So they need to focus and try and figure out what they can do, because they've had their chances. They've shown that they can beat this physical Vegas forecheck at times, and if they can put that together for close to 60 minutes, they have a chance. And it's so easy. I think it's so easy to just resign yourself to what is the most likely outcome at this point.
Especially in this sport where what I love about hockey is that anything can happen. So I'll be honest, like Vancouver Canucks fans, especially those on Twitter, very much like Sean said, like very defeatist mentality. So many highs and lows even throughout the season. Goalies have one bad game, get him out of town, has a good game, put him in the Hall of Fame. That's Canucks fans, love it or hate it. I think, even stepping outside of my fandom though, and if I looked at this series from just a neutral point, you'd probably say, okay, like last night was the game the Vancouver Canucks had to win to stay in this series. I know you have to win every game to stay in the series. That goes without saying. But I'm just talking about from someone who's watched hockey his whole life, kind of knows, how a series works in regards to the back and forth, the flow. But again, there's that one caveat. Anything can happen in hockey. We saw Tampa Bay get swept last year. We've seen teams come back 3-1 in playoff runs. We've seen the 1994 Canucks come back from a 3-1 and go on a playoff run all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals. I think the Vancouver Canucks have it in them to win 1 more game in this series 100%. I'm not predicting or saying that they're going to. I'm saying they have it in them to win at least 1 more game in this series. You win 1 more game, on to the next one. It's 1 game at a time. I agree, Sean. They've proven that they can beat this team. I do not think, though, that they have any chance of being the better team throughout 60 minutes. So then it all comes down to, guys, wrapping up this segment, putting a bow on it, it all comes down to Jacob Markstrom. He is the key in all this, because I really don't think the Canucks can play a 60-minute perfect game against the Golden Knights. There's going to be a period blunder. It's happened in every game. Even in the 5-0 win, there were stretches of that game where it was like the Vegas Golden Knights should be absolutely destroying us right now, but Jacob Markstrom's playing out of his mind. So long or the short of it, the Canucks can win 1 more game. I'm confident, but Jacob Markstrom has to be outstanding. And even if he isn't, we cannot blame him, because we wouldn't be here without him.
To me, this is how I look at it. I think the Canucks can win a Tuesday. The fascinating thing with the Vegas Golden Knights is they have a bunch of experience. They got to the Stanley Cup final. If they win this series, this is 2 conference finals in 3 years of existence. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. But this is also a team that blew a huge lead against the San Jose Sharks last year on the way to out of the first round. This is a team that couldn't sweep the Chicago Blackhawks. I mean, I'm not critiquing them for it. Corey Crawford stood on his head, but I do wonder a little bit about this killer instinct about the Vegas Golden Knights, and that I think I'll be bold. If the Canucks win Tuesday, this is going 7.
Ooh, I like it.
If the Canucks win Tuesday, this will go 7. That's what I'll say. Because the one thing that does concern me about the Golden Knights, I think they're probably the best team in this and at least on this side of the conference. Maybe they're the Stanley Cup champions. I don't know, but I do wonder about that killer instinct of the Golden Knights.
They got it on all levels. What I love about last night's game was at least it was an entertaining game.
Absolutely.
It kept Canucks fans in it for most of the game in its entirety. So I enjoyed the experience of watching last night's game versus some of the other ones against this juggernaut of a team.
All right. Is there anything else we need to touch on?
I think that's good. I'm
All right.
good. You guys are.
All right. Isha, we'll start with you. How do we follow you?
You can find me, and I just posted all the links. Brand new episode of the Sota Pod at the Sota Pod. Actually had a great interview with local Vancouver Islander and National Hockey League legend Mr. Doug Bodger, who's drafted in the same draft 7th overall as Lemieux to the Pittsburgh Penguins. He spent time playing with the Pittsburgh Penguins when in their dark days, once they're being elevated, once Lemieux and some of the young players entered that team. He also spent some time in Buffalo, playing with Dominic Hasek. We talked a little bit about his time and his friendship with Dale Howard-Chuck, and also, of course, playing with Alexander Mogilny and some of the stories he had on his defection from Russia to the United States. And then he tops it all off with some great stories about his relationship with Mark Crawford, where when the Canucks signed him in his last season, he was promised a lot more playing time, was given a little bit of rope when they signed him. And upon being signed by the Vancouver Canucks, Mark Crawford kind of just went from 100 to 0 in his interest of playing our friend Big Bodge there. So he has some funny stories in regards to his time with the Vancouver Canucks. What's great about this player, guys, is he never played one game in the minors, and he went out on his own terms. Mark Crawford actually threatened to scratch him, and he went, you know what? Screw this. I retire. I don't need this anymore. I came here to play hockey, not be scratched, and bring up young guys as Bertuzzi, Naslin were on the team. So that was a lot of fun. We also dive into some wild prospect news with our friend Jake Jensen, and later this week we have we're gonna have another episode with some more live guests, and I have one friend on the Hockey Podcast Network, host of the Caps Chirp podcast. He's gonna come on and talk about the whole Washington Capitals meltdown in this bubble. So a lot of content available coming out on the Sota Pod. You can find me on Twitter at VI Sports Talk. Help a brother out. I'm almost at 1,000 followers, folks. And thanks again for having me here.
Thank you. Sean, how do we follow you?
I am Dirty Connect 03 on Twitter.
Heidi is Hyde Amazeballs. Give her a shout out as she is dealing with school, the return of school. So give her a shout out there. Schneid's SCHNEIDZ. Tyler TNOBLE. Oh Tyler. We'll have a conversation a little later about a picture. It was quite amusing. We'll get into that later. Devin Gordhouse09. Where he posts pictures of dogs sometimes. I am KVOLE, podcast_hockey. Like us on Facebook, subscribe on YouTube, iTunes, Google, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Instagram, Twitter. We're all there. Check us out. We will be back Wednesday. We will be back recapping Game 5, which is hopefully not the last game. It's not the last game. That's what I'm saying. Go Canucks, go. We will talk to you all soon. Bye for now.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
You okay, Kev?
I see the stream. The stream is available, so you should be able to still download it if something didn't record on your end.